Hi everyone, my name is Ellie and I am a junior in the College of Arts and Sciences, double majoring in math and government with a minor in justice and peace studies, and I'm currently studying abroad at the University of Edinburgh for the semester. I'm going to be taking you through a day in the life. It is final season, so I'll be spending lots of time in the library, but you'll be along for all of the study breaks that will definitely happen today, and feel free to ask any questions. I'm back in my flat just to make some lunch, but first I figured I'd answer this great question. So this is actually really easy because I don't have a roommate at Edinburgh, so my favorite roommate that I've ever had at Georgetown is Sophie, who I've lived with for the past 2 years, and we're living together again next spring, which is really exciting. But here I actually have a single, I'm in a 12-person flat, and I have 11 flatmates, 10 of which are first years at the University of Edinburgh, and one is another exchange student. And we share a kitchen, and then we share bathrooms in each corridor of the flat, but I'll give you a little room tour. Okay guys, so I live in room 12, which is located conveniently right next to the kitchen. Here's my closet, my desk, a nice big cork board with some decorations. Go Hoyas, it's officially basketball season, aka best time of the year. Here's my bed. Here are some postcards that I've been collecting through some of my traveling this semester, which has been really awesome. Bedside table, typical, and then here's a view of Cowgate, which is a pretty lively street here in Edinburgh. Thanks for this question. So I'm actually taking 3 classes here at Edinburgh, and it's my first semester that I'm not taking math classes because the math campus is about a 40-minute commute from my accommodation, and it would have been just too hard to fit with my other classes. So I ended up with Nations and Nationalism, which is actually a sociology class, comparative politics in a globalized world, which is a second-year standard politics course here, and then Pioneers of Political Islam, which is in the School of Divinity, and will count for my theology credit at Georgetown. So actually I don't have a favorite flatmate because I love all of them equally. Okay, this is a great question. I've actually felt the least homesick this semester than other semesters of college, surprisingly. I think part of it is because I've been keeping super busy by exploring Edinburgh and traveling most weekends, which I've been really lucky to do. And I also think a big part of it is having 11 other flatmates. It's always very busy in the flat, and there's always things for me to do. So there's never really like a lull moment, which I think is good for me when I am like sad about missing my family and friends. But I see them super soon, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, maybe you can hear us. Hey!
Okay, so it's currently halftime in the Georgetown versus Coppin State game, men's basketball. We're up 29-14, so looking good right now. So I was just going to answer my last few questions before I finish watching the game and then go to bed. So something new that I learned about myself this semester. So many things. So many things that I've already kind of known about myself, but just became super clear this semester. I love going on like adventures and exploring new places. It really just fills me up in a way that I kind of forget about sometimes, and I'm looking forward to bringing that energy back with me to Georgetown. And exploring new neighborhoods that I haven't been able to see before. Another big thing is that I actually really do enjoy cooking, which I never thought I would. You can ask my siblings. I often I help cook, but I don't do the whole meal. And so making a whole meal for myself has been super different. My flatmates make fun of me because it is often just a pile of random things, but it works for me, so that's all that matters. Okay, next question is any culture shock since coming here? Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things has just been a difference in slang that some of my flatmates use. I've learned a lot of new phrases that I've never heard before. There's also kind of like memes or pop culture things that I wasn't familiar with that they've filled me in on since being here. And I think another big thing that's been super interesting to learn about is the university system here. It's super different than the States, as well as their primary and secondary schooling. And so I've really enjoyed learning about how that process works here, and some of the similarities and differences with the American system. Okay, my final question was actually DM'd to me, but the question was, what is something you saw, learned, or experienced that you didn't expect? And I have 3 answers for this, actually, if I remember. The first one is very simple, but haggis is a really famous meat here in Scotland, and I really enjoy the taste of it, but it's actually not legal to be sold in the United States, so unfortunately I'd have to come all the way back here to have it again, which gives me a good excuse to come back. Another thing that I did not expect was the level of awareness that my flatmates have about the US compared to my very little level of knowledge of the United Kingdom. I didn't realize that a lot of them are super familiar with a bunch of different states, which was really shocking to me. And finally, I think one of the most special parts of this experience has been the people I've gotten to share it with. I got so lucky with my housing situation, and I really have a lot of great friends that I've made living in the flat with me this semester, and I'm going to really miss them next semester. But it's really crazy how close we got over just a few weeks, and it's been exciting to kind of navigate this life with them because it's also their first time living in Edinburgh and going to college in general here. So that's been really awesome.